Want to speed up your language learning? Get access to all of our best PDF cheat sheets for free. Just click the link in the description and sign up for your free lifetime account right now.
Genders in French. I know it's really annoying genders in that language, but it's something that you really need to master if you want to sound French and to speak real French. But we think that usually it's really random the way that a noun is feminine or masculine. But in fact, there are some rules that you can remember, and if you do that, you will be able to guess if a noun is feminine or masculine. But of course, experience is better than just learning rules. So just you need to, when you learn a new word, try to remember the gender. So let's get started with feminine ending. If you see one word ending with this one, yon, you are like 99% sure that it's a feminine word. And if it's with sion or sion, like same pronunciation but different letter, here it's with a T and here it's with an S, this you're sure with 100%. So here you've got this example, la construction, la construction. So I will always put an article here to show that it's feminine or masculine. So here it's feminine, la. You know, the equivalent, the masculine equivalent is le, but here it's la. La construction, like in English, construction. And here, like traduction or translation, traduction, la traduction. T-I-O-N, it means it's a feminine word. So just remember that. And some examples with sion, la télévision, television, again, it's a similar word in English. And here, la décision, decision. So as you can see, for those words, usually it's the same than in English, like almost the same. Here, there's the accent in French, and here as well, but it's the same ending. So if you see those two endings, it's feminine, and usually it's the English equivalent of the word is kind of similar, because these endings exist in English as well. So this is for sion and sion. So same pronunciation even for French speakers. Here is another one, T. Like for example, la beauté, beauty, and la réalité, So as you can see in English, beauty, beauté, réalité, reality. T is the equivalent of T in English. So like when you see a word that is ending with a T, ty in English, there is a high probability that the translation would be with T, and if it's the case, the word is always feminine. Some other examples like clarity, clarté, la clarté, clarity, la clarté. So here it's a bit different, but you see T and T en français, in French. So here, those two endings are really important, but the next category is most of the words ending with E. E, you know, it's the feminine mark. Like when you have an adjective, you have to change the ending of the adjective depending of the noun, if it's a masculine noun or a feminine noun. And usually, and it's like always the case in fact, you add an E to prove that it's a feminine, you add an E at the end of the adjective because the noun is feminine. So E is the mark of the feminine form. But not all the words, all the nouns ending with E are feminine, but a lot, many of them. And for those endings, it's always the case. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You have 6 different endings. The first one is et. Et, like when you say a word with et for French native speaker, it sounds feminine. Et is really feminine, with double T-E. For example, cigarette, la cigarette, cigarette, la cigarette. Same than in English. Here, feminine. Then here you have trumpet, la trompette, la trompette, la trompette. Again, feminine. You have E double T E, E double T E, feminine always. Here, you've got two similar ones, ans and ans. Like same pronunciation, but sometimes it's with an A, sometimes it's with an E. So here, you have la ressemblance, ressemblance. Similar to the English word, resemblance, except that in French you need to add two S. Here you have two S. In English you have only one. La ressemblance, la ressemblance. It ends with A-N-C-E, so definitely it's a feminine word. Same with this one. La chance, like chance or luck. C-H-A-N-C-E, A-N-C-E, feminine, always feminine. The next one is with E-N-C-E, so same pronunciation. As you can see here, la différence, similar to the English word, difference. La différence, here there is an accent, but in English it's the same except that. La différence, difference. So here you can see when I say ressemblance and différence, this is the same pronunciation. There is, even for native French speakers, there is no difference in between those two sounds. So don't be afraid. This is quite normal for native French speakers not to distinguish that. The only way you can distinguish it is when you write it. And here is another example, l'intelligence. L'intelligence, like smartness or the fact of being clever, cleverness. L'intelligence. So here again, E-N-C-E. But for this one, there is one big exception. This is silence. Silence, like quietness. Le silence. Here, even though it's E-N-C-E, you need to use like le, which proves that it's masculine. So le silence, masculine word. Be careful with this one. Then there is another one which is U or E. U or E. Here is an example. La peinture, like painting. La peinture, la peinture. So here, U or E, so again, feminine. Another one is la culture, culture. Here, it's U or E, so definitely it's feminine. So this is for this one. Now let's move on to the next one. E-double-S-E. As this one, E-double-T-E, when you hear that as a native French speaker, it sounds really feminine. So almost all the words with E-double-S-E are feminine. Same for this one. There is like no big exception for this one. La sagesse, like wisdom. La sagesse, sagesse. It means that it's feminine because E-double-S-E. In French, the E-double-S-E ending is quite similar to the ness one in English, like cleverness. It's a way to make an adjective, to turn an adjective into a noun. So here you can say sage. Someone is sage, like wise. And if you add E-double-S-E, it becomes a noun. So here, la sagesse. Here is another example, la promesse, in English promise. La promesse. Here again, E-double-S-E, so definitely it's feminine. And the last one is I-N-E, like in la cuisine, kitchen, or cuisine. You can also say cuisine, because in French, cuisine means like the fact of cooking and the activity of cooking and also the room, the kitchen. So here, cuisine, I-N-E, and here, l'origine, the origin. So here, as you can see, and you can see that as well in intelligence, l'intelligence, there is a vowel. So with this, you cannot say if it's feminine or masculine if you just see the L like that, because there is a contraction. But this, if you use like un or une, you would say une origine, or here une intelligence. You have to be careful because here, when you say it, you need to know if it's masculine or feminine. But here, you know it's feminine because it's I-N-E, or here it's E-N-C-E. So be careful with that. So it was like 6 examples, like the 6 biggest categories of nouns that are always feminine and nouns that end with an E. Because as you can see, it's always ending with an E, So here, always feminine, except in this case, and maybe there are some more, but don't focus too much on that, because in 99% of the cases, it's always feminine. So this is the good ones, and sometimes there are also some masculine E ending, but we will see that later. But if you don't know if a word is feminine or masculine, but the word ends with a he, with an E, there is a high chance that this one is feminine. And if it's this one, it's definitely feminine. Let's move on to masculine endings. The first one is en. When you see a word that ends with en, the sound en, I know it's a difficult one for non-native French speakers, but this one is really important. En, same pronunciation for the 4 words. So here, as you can see, there is an E and an A, but it's the same, and here you've got a silent T. You don't say it, so for those 4 endings, it's en. It's a bit similar to this, en, like same pronunciation, even if it's an A or an E. So here, en. There is a high chance that if it ends with an en, it's masculine. And if it's with M-E-N-T, you're sure, like 99%, almost 100%, that it's masculine. So here is an example, le paiement, payment. Like it's the same than in English, meant. If a word, usually a word in English that ends with meant, you can translate it into a word in French that ends with ment. And if you do it, it's always masculine. Masculine. Le paiement. The payment. Le paiement. So here you're sure like 100% for this one. But for the other ones, you're almost sure, like I would say more than 90%. So here you've got some examples. A child, un enfant. Un enfant. So here I do the liaison. Un enfant. Or you can also say l'enfant. But here you don't, it's same than here. Like you don't see if it's masculine or feminine. So for these examples, those examples, I prefer to use un or une. So here you've got un. So, un enfant, A-N-T, it's masculine, A-N-T. Next one is a glove, un gant, un gant, un gant, A-N-T, glove, enfant, gant. Here, same ending, so not much to say. So here is another one, un paysan, un chien. Paysan, A-N, un chien, I-N. Here you can see en, paysan, chien. But here the pronunciation is a bit different for chien. But here you've got a masculine word. But one thing you can do in French is sometimes for like words, especially for animals and people, because here un paysan it means like peasant, and chien means dog. So here it's an animal and here it's a person, like a peasant. In those cases, in French, you can turn those words into a feminine one if you add usually a specific mark. And usually this specific mark is the feminine E. E is the mark of feminine noun. So here, if you add an E, you can do it. But with the AN and EN, when you do that, you need to double the N. So, une paysanne, une chienne. So here you double the N and you add an E. So here you've got the feminine ending and a masculine ending. So that's why in most cases NA and EN are masculine, because if you want the feminine equivalent, you need to add NE at the end. So this one, en, usually it's always masculine. Let's move on to the next one. Here it's un, the sound un. So here it's three different ways to write un, but it's the same un. Here it's silent T, and here it's the same un. I know it's quite hard. Maybe you don't hear the difference between en and un, but like it's really different for French speakers. Le pain, bread, le pain, le pain. It's a bit similar to chien here. Le pain, chien. Like E-E-N is a bit similar to A-I-N. So yeah, you've got this one. And here you've got another example. Le chemin, path. Here, I-N. And here another one, a funny one, le pingouin, which is not like penguin, but oak. It's almost the same. But here you've got one other words with I-N. But here you've got like a not common ending in French, O-U-I-N. But it's still I-N, so masculine. So here, masculine, 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 I-N, I-N, I-N. So here it's even A-I-N. So here, as you can see, it's masculine I-N, and here, with an E, it's feminine. So it's not the equivalent, like it's not like you cannot just add an E and make it and turn it into a feminine word, but you can notice that with an E, it's feminine, and without, it's masculine. So yeah, it's really important to remember that usually IN, the sound un, is masculine. So you've got those two examples. Let's move on to the next one. Here, you've got different ways to say the sound O. O. This is almost 99%, almost 100% sure that the words that ends with one of these will be masculine. So here it's the same pronunciation, O, 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 O. Like you've got many different ways to write it in French. But here it's a silent T, silent S, silent T, silent D. And here AU, it's O in French, and E, AU is all, it's also O. So here, le crapaud, like a toad. Toad in English, le crapaud, crapaud. Here AUD, so this one, it's masculine. Here is another one, snail, un escargot. Un escargot. Escargot. So here, OT. Same pronunciation, O, un escargot. Another one is le saut, like a jump, the jump. A-U-T, you don't say the T, so it's masculine, le saut. Un oiseau, like a bird. Here, E-A-U, E-A-U, so it's masculine. But there is one big exception, which is in fact not really an exception. This is l'eau. So here you cannot say if it's masculine or feminine, so you would say une eau. Here you can see that it's E-A-U, but in fact, the whole word is E-A-U. It's not an ending, because here it's like grammatically speaking, this is an ending, but here the whole word is E-A-U, so it's not an ending. So be careful with this one. But we don't say a lot une eau. But it's important to know that EAU is feminine when you use an adjective, like une eau claire, like clear water. Here, it's important for the E. So but here I used une. But if you want to use l'eau claire, here, you need to know for the E here. So let's move on to the next one, which is on, the sound on. With on is probably one of the most difficult sounds for French learners. So here, like it's silent T, and silent D, and here like OM and ON, it's same pronunciation in French. So here, le ballon, like the ball, le ballon, masculine. Le dragon, dragon, same than in English, same. Le pont, like a bridge, O-N-T, T is silent, le pont. Here you've got le prénom, like first name, but it's the case for like nickname, le surnom, or le nom, name. You've got OM here. M is like if it was an N. So here, masculine. And another one, an example with OND is le bon, like leap. It's a leap. So here, silent D, masculine. The next one is ou. Again, X silent, T silent, so it's same pronunciation for all those endings. This one, it's not 100% sure, but it's almost. Like those ones are really common. This one maybe a bit less, same than this one, same for this one, but it's in a lot of cases, it's masculine. So here you've got an example, le pou, like louse in the head, on the head, le pou, O-U-X, O-U-X, like pronunciation ou, so it's not, it's masculine. Le ragout, like stew, the stew, O-U-T, O-U-T. Here, le caillou, pebble, pebble, le caillou. Always pronunciation ou, so masculine for all those cases. And be careful with this one, la roue. La roue, it's like a feminine word. But here it's not one of the three endings that is written. Here it's with an E, O-U-E. So that's why it's not 100%. It's because like all the way you can write ou in French, only 3 of them are like almost always masculine. There is one ending that is feminine. It's when it's with an E. So again, as I told you, most of the words ending with E are feminine. And this is an example. The next one is al, like le cheval, horse, or animal, animal, un animal, l'animal, un animal, or hospital, un hôpital. Same, you see that a lot of words in English ends with al, and usually it's often the case that in French it's also with al, so in those cases it's masculine. So al, masculine, in many cases. It's not always the case, but in most cases. So this is all for the masculine endings, like the common ones. But there is also masculine endings which are E sometimes. I told you most of the words ending with E are feminine, but it's not always the case. So here you've got, like it's 100% sure that it's feminine, except for this one, le silence. But it's like almost always feminine. But there are some words that are always masculine. And then for the remaining ones, there is a high chance that it's feminine, but sometimes it's also masculine. So be careful. But usually, if you just remember those 4 endings, without remembering those ones, you can guess that the word is feminine. If it's not one of these, it's probably feminine. But if you want really to be accurate, you should also learn those ones. That sounds feminine. And it's always feminine when you hear that. So here are the 4 ones that are always masculine. This one is really common. Isme. It's like in English, ism. Like le réalisme, realism. Like humanism, l'humanisme. Like feminism, le féminisme. Here, always, le féminisme, le réalisme, realism. So ISME, always masculine. Here is another one, like âge. Like you can say l'âge, for example, the age, but it's not a terminism here. Like it's same than O, because the full word is âge. Here, in mariage, like wedding or also marriage, because in French it's the same word. You've got the AGE as an ending. So here, it's masculine. All the word with AGE are masculine in French. And here are 2 other ones, like scope in English, so scope in French, scope. Like telescope in English, le télescope, like really similar. Le télescope, le téléphone in French, le téléphone. In English, like telephone. So here you can see like it's the same beginning of the word, like télé. And here you've got different ending, and those 2 endings are masculine. So all words with scope and like scope in French, scope in English, or phone in English, and fun in French, fun, scope, fun. Like it's not really a O, it's like fun, a bit different. Maybe you cannot catch it, but it doesn't really matter. Le téléphone, le télescope. So that's all for the masculine E endings. Like it's, in those cases, it's always masculine, so be careful with that. So let's sum that up. Feminine endings and masculine endings. For feminine endings, there is ION and TE. It's like almost feminine, in all cases feminine, like almost 100% sure that it will be feminine. So those 2 only. I will talk about that later. For masculine endings, you've got this one, on, o. Those 2 are like almost 100%, like 99%. For MENT, it's 100%. So for those 2, it's almost always masculine. For those 2 as well, un and on, it's almost always masculine. Here, when you hear ou, it's always masculine, except if there is OUE, which means like it's feminine. By the way, I didn't translate this word. Roue is like the wheel. So this case, and also a last one, al, often masculine when you see AL. And concerning the E endings, if you don't know, there is a high chance that it's feminine. If it's one of those, this is masculine. But in other cases, it's almost always feminine, as you can see here. But sometimes it's not the case. But for those ones, it's 100% sure that it's the case. So I hope with those endings, if you can remember that, like you don't need to learn that by heart, but if you can do it, like remember some of them, you will be able to guess the gender. And this is really helpful when you learn French. Today, you will learn how to pronunciate the letter R in French like a native speaker. This is quite an annoying letter, R in French, R, R. After this lesson, you will be able to pronunciate R like a perfect person. And you will not face this embarrassing situation where you try to say a word in French with R, but you are not you're not understood because you mispronounced the R. So with this, you will be able to understand how to say R. French R is really different from the English R, and this is a sound, r, that doesn't exist in English. So this is a new consonant that you need to learn when you start learning English. This is a bit like in the word eradicate. In English, eradicate, eradicate, So this is the same idea, except that the or is more from the throat. So this is the big difference. We need to use our throat to make this sound happen. So here are some tips for you to pronunciate that word, that letter. So this is vibrations coming from your throat and chest. Or is not something from like just your throat, like in English, or something like from your throat. It's more something like vibrating. You need to make your throat vibrate. This is something like that. Like when you do some gargling, like you put water in your mouth and you do, this is the sound that you need to use. Like, try to make this sound. This is a good training for you. You can even try with water if you want, but you can do it without. So try to understand that your throat is vibrating when you do this song. And in French, when you do angriness, like an angry dog, or when someone in a comic is angry, usually we use these letters. I guess we can also use that in English, and the pronunciation is like grrr, 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 grrr. So we need to make this sound again, the vibration of the throat. Grrr, grrr, like grrr. This is the sound that a dog would make if he need to show his angriness. So this is grrr. And as you can see here, the sound G, the letter G is quite interesting to make this sound happen. Like this is the kind of the continuation of the sound G. So if you try to say G, 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 you start to feel that your throat is vibrating. G, G, G. If you try to exaggerate, to force this sound, G, 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 you can make this sound happen, like the R. G, 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 G. This is like a kind of continuation of G. G, G. So you can, if you try to do that, you can have this sound happen in your mouth. So here are 4 tips. Like remember vibrations. This you need to make your throat vibrate. Then this is a bit like gargling, or when you're angry, or the kind of continuation of the sound of the letter G, G, gr, gr, gr. So try to say that, gr, or doing all those exercises in front of your computer. This is a good training. And here are some words, and you can try with these words. So I'm gonna just pick one first. Raté, raté, raté. Raté, it's like to fail. Raté, raté, raté. You can try to pronunciate that. Raté, raté, to fail. Je rate, I fail. Raté, raté. So try, it's okay if you exaggerate. This is the first way to get used to the sound. Like it's always exaggeration at first, and then your throat and you will be used to making this sound. So this is good. And here, let's take another example, the example of big. In French, it's grand, grand. So here you can see G or. That's why I'm taking this sound, because this is a bit like the continuation of the sound produced by the letter G. So here it's like a kind of grr. So grand, grand. So try to say it grand, grand. Sometimes people, when they are snoring, the sound that they make is grrr. So this is like the letter R. So if you snore, maybe you are able to do this sound. Grr, grr. So here, let's have a look of all the consonants that are mixed with R and the sound that is produced. So here, like this is the 8 letters that can be combined with R to make a kind of sound. So we will train for all those 8 sounds. So first, so it's alphabetic order. So here, bras, bras. This is arm. Bras, bras, bras. You need to feel the vibration here. Bras, bras, bras. So try to say it. Bras. Did you do it? You should do it. Crier, crier maintenant. Now crier, to shout, when I'm shouting. Crier, 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 crier. Okay? Next one is dr, droite. It means like right. Droit, 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 droit. Right. The next one is France. Like you're learning French, so you need to say French, France, in English, in French. F-R, France, 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 France. This is the sound that you need to remember. Then G, we've seen that before. Gr, gr, grand, grand. The next one, ready. When you're ready, prêt, you say prêt in French. Prêt, prêt. P-R, prêt, prêt, prêt. Vibrations. And then true, like vrai, vrai in French. Vrai, vrai, vr, vr. This is also the sound that we use in comics for the noise made by car. Like a car that is, a car is usually making this sound in French. I guess it's the same in English. Vr, 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 vrai, vrai, true, vrai, vrai. And the last one is tr, tr, très, like very. It's very good. Like if you're gonna say it's very big, you would say très grand, très grand, très grand, très. And sometimes like it's hard to differentiate dr and tr, dr, tr, dr, dr, tr. Droite, très, très droite, très droite. So try by yourself to say all those sounds. If you can manage like one by one to train that, and if you do the sound by yourself, it's a super training for you. Like you will be used to say all the common sounds with R. So this is a good training. So remember that and try to pronunciate those words. You can also find some other words that you've learned before with R and try to say it. The idea is to say it. You need to say it. You cannot just like watch a video of me saying that. You need to do it yourself, otherwise you will never remember. Your throat, your mouth will never remember the sounds. So you need to do that. Here are some maybe easier sounds with vowels. So here we've seen that before. Or a, ra, raté, to fail, raté, raté, ra. So you can try to say it, raté, raté. The next one is to redo, refaire, re, or i, re. So I know is sometimes hard to say, but you have to say re. The next one is rester, to stay. So here you can see it's R-E, but the pronunciation is like if there were an accent here. So it's re. So you have to say rester, re. The next one is rice, ri, or e, ri. So here, be careful, the Z is silent, and here as well, the R is silent. This is only this R that is not silent. And here, so ri. An easy sound. And then rocher, like a rock. Rocher. And then rue, like street. Rue. So we've seen all the basic letters, all the basic vowels in French. But you know, in French, we've got some additional vowel sounds. This is roi, roux, rang. And there are some others, but we will focus on those for now. Roi. This is quite easy. If you have difficulties to say OI in French, you've got this technique. It's like ro plus A. So it's like when you say ro a. So a in French, you know it's a. Like you don't say a, it's a. So if you want to read that, it's a. And this is ro a, roa, roa. So this is a way to say it, but like it's a bit different from the way I'm saying it, roi, roi, because I'm using it like I'm saying it more fluently, like roi, like it's smoother, roi, 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 like it means king, roi. Next one is roue, like wheel, roue, 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 okay? And last one is rend. Like it's the case for en or an. You know, en and an, it's exactly the same sound in French. Rentrer, rentrer, rentrer. So here you can see that we've got two R and even one more with, but this one is silent because it's a verb. I will explain that later, silent R. So here, rentrer, rentrer, rentrer. If you can say this word, it's really good because here you've got R. So this annoying R, but also this sound en, which is quite hard to say, and also like a combination between one consonant, so T, with R. So if you can try this word, like this is kind of the word that if you can say it, like it means you can master, you've mastered the R, the R, rentrer. So this is like some common vowels. We've got other sounds, but this is like kind of commons. And if you know how to say one, you're supposed to know how to say the others if you know like another sound. So the last one, I would like you to show you 3 more examples. So you see here, you know how to say that in French? It's R, R, R. And this is like the letter, because in French we don't say that R, it's R, R. So this is the sound R. And we've got words that are using this sound. So here, like when you want to say proud in French, you say fier, fier, fier. So the sound is like R. Fi, R, fi, R. And then 2 others really common words, father and mother, père, mère, père, mère, père, mère. Again, vibrations. So here it's like the letter, the same pronunciation than when you just spell the letter. R, père, R, père. The letter or, R, father, père. Can you do it? Can you try to make it? Mère, père. And you can try with other vowels if you want, like here it's P, but you can also try with T, terre, terre. It means like to shut your mouth, like to be quiet. Terre, terre. So this is quite interesting if you can master those examples as well. Like you should train with that. And here you've got one extra rule, like this is concerning the silent R, because R is sometimes silent when it's at the end of words, only when it's at the end of words, and in 2 specific cases. The first one is when there is verbs from the premier group, first group, if you know what it is in French, first group. They're all ending with ER. And those verbs ending with ER, the R is always silent. So here, rester, to stay, rester, R is silent, the last R. And here again, rentrer, here the R is silent. So this is the case, the first case, and the second case is premier, premier. It means, it's an adjective and it means first. And this adjective is always silent here. And here you can see that you've got another R. So you can also train this word. Premier, premier. It's like P, P-R. So premier. But you have to be careful because this silent R is there is the liaison that is used with this letter. Because when a letter is silent, there is always this liaison, this rule of the liaison. It means that when there is a word starting with a vowel after a word ending with a silent R, you've got to say the R. So here, when you want to say the first child, le premier enfant, you need to do that. Le premier enfant. Le premier enfant. You know, this is the same sound than here. Rend. Le premier enfant. It's like you get rid of this letter and you add an or here. Like you say the word premier, like if the or was silent, le premier, and then you add an additional or sound here before the word. So it's like instead of saying enfant, you say renfant, renfant here. Le premier enfant. And here, this is a case where there is no vowel. Le premier fils. Le premier fils. So here you don't say it. So be careful. It's only when there is a vowel. Okay. So let's wrap it up. We've seen that or is a sound coming from your throat. This is vibrations. Really important. You need to feel those vibrations. And with this, you can, like if you want to try to mimicate the sound, you can think of gargling, like when you're gargling. This is the sound that you need to do. And also, like this is a sound of angriness. And as you can see here, the continuation of the sound g, g, g. The beginning of the vibration is made when you do G and then gr, gr. And here we've seen a lot of examples like consonants with or. So br, kr, dr, fr, gr, pr, vr, tr. Okay. Can you try to do it? It's a good exercise if you can do it. And then we've seen some vowels. Ra, re, re, ri, ro, ru. But also some extra ones. Roi, roux, ran. Roi, roux, ran. And also er. Some words using the letter or as if you were spelling it. Er, per, mer, fier. And don't forget that sometimes R is silent in two specific cases. Remember those cases. Ending of verbs. Verbs with er at the end and premier. And with the premier in particular, there is sometimes this liaison when there is a vowel after the adjective. So with this, you can master or.
Want to speed up your language learning? Get access to all of our best PDF cheat sheets for free. Just click the link in the description and sign up for your free lifetime account right now.
Et and ir. I think those ones are the most common one, and I will explain all in details how you can detect the words and the groups of these endings. So, without further ado, let's get started. You know, in French, there are three groups. First group, second group, and third group. The first group is ER, always ER. Only verbs with this ending are in this group. Et. The second group is only for IR, IR, but the problem is the third group is for many different kind of verbs, but also for IR. So this is kind of annoying because this here, the third group is known to be like full of a lot of exceptions, and those with IR, you have a lot of exceptions. So we will explain how you can try to recognize verbs from the second group and from the third group, even if there is just the IR. And also I will explain how you can use ER verbs, because there is only one exception, the verb aller, which is also a third group, like the exception group. So all the verbs with ER are in the first group except aller. And all the verb with ER are from the second group or for the third group. Like you can say like half is in the second group and the other half is in the third group. So let's start with the first group, ER. Here you've got some example. To speak, parler, parler. To eat, manger, manger. To walk, marcher, marcher. So as you can see here, you have always ER, and you've got what we call a stem. All verbs from the first group are made of a stem and the ending, which is always ER. And then you've got, if you add the stem and the ending, you've got the infinitive form of the verb. It's like when you say to speak in English, like in the dictionary, you can find verbs with this form, parler. So this is all you have to remember, like you have to know how to detect the stem and the ending. And then for like the most common tenses, it's quite easy. So I'm going to explain just for the four more common tenses for the verbs. I'm not going to explain all the conjugaison, because it's not really important and it's not the purpose of this lesson. And if you want to know the conjugaison, you need to learn by yourself. And I'm gonna just repeat again the different endings for the conjugaison. But what you have to remember is for présent, which is like present, you need to use the stem, so here, and then you had the ending of the conjugaison. So here, I, you've got all the ending for all verbs of the first group. If you know them, you can use the correct form for every verb at the present, like every verb for the first group. So here, présent, you take parle, if you want to use the verb parler, you take parle, and then you add the correct conjugaison. So here, for example, if you want to say je parle, like I talk or I speak, you can use the first one, je, you take parle, and then you add I, and you've got parle. So this is really easy. And it's the same for the imparfait, which is like a bit like preterite, but the usage is a bit different. But anyway, we can say, roughly speaking, that it's like the preterite. So here, imparfait, you take the stem again and you add the conjugaison, which is, this time, this list. And if you know this list, you can get the correct form for every verbs. And same for the future, but except that here, you don't add the stem, you add the infinitive. So it's like the stem plus the ending. So for manger, for example, you just take manger and then you add the correct ending. So if you want to say you, or like you eat, but you want to use future, so you want to say you will eat. So you take manger, infinitive, and then you add the correct ending. So I said tu, like you, so I take the second one, and then mangera, manger, mangera, tu mangeras. So here you've got the correct form. So just a quick summing up, like this is je, tu, il, nous, vous, il. Like I, you, he or she, we, you, like plural you, and then il or elle, which is like they, like plural. And then you've got the last form, which is like what we call participe passé, which is used when you want to use something close to the past perfect in English. So here you just take the stem, so here parle, and you add I with an accent. And it's the same for all verbs from this group. So you've got parler. And this is like, the participe passé. It's like you use two verbs. You first use the verbs you want to express, so like manger. And then you add before the auxiliary. And then all you need to change, depending on if you use I or you or they, it's like the auxiliary. And this never changed. That's why there is only one ending. Et. So here, like if I want to say he was, like he ate, like past, I would say il a mangé. Il a mangé. So here a is like the verb, it's the verb avoir, like to have, like auxiliary in French, and then manger. and this is just this participe passé, this form. So here, I'm going to show you some examples. Like if I want to say je parlais, here, try to guess what is the tense and the correct terminaison, like the correct ending. So here, you can try for those three verbs, and then I will give the answer. Okay, did you try? Okay. So here, parle, as you can see, it's the stem. So it's probably present or imparfait. And here you see AIS, AIS, and you see here AIS. So this is imparfait. So because it's je, like first column, here, est, so je parlais, you know that it's like imparfait, the stem, plus the ending, AIS, AIS. So here, it's quite easy. Same for the next one, manger. Here, it's not the stem, but it's the infinitive. So it's probably future, like it can only be future. So you've got the infinitive, and then you've got the conjugation to find. You know it's new, so new, like you take the third, like the fourth column. So here on, and you see that on, it's here. So it's future. So here it's we will eat, we will eat. And for this one it was I was speaking or I spoke, depending on the sentence. And then here, il marchait. Il marchait. Here you've got the stem, marche. And here you've got the ending here. Here you've got the stem, it's the verb marcher without the ending, marcher, so to walk. And then it's future, like it's the plural, sorry. And here, as you can see, it's imperfect. So you've got il marchait, like they were walking or they walked. So it's quite easy for the first group. And remember, it's like that for every verb that ends with er, really easy. And many verbs, like most of the French verbs, are with er at the end. So it's super easy. If you can remember that, you will know how to find the correct form for every verbs. Let's now move on to the next one. Second group, with a large part of I-or verbs, ir. So here, the logic is really similar to the logic from this group. Here are some examples. To end, finir. To choose, choisir. And to whiten, blanchir. Many verbs, like first hint to get to manage to know if it's a second group or a third group. You've got a lot of verbs in English when you can add un at the end. It's mean like you want something to get like a new state. So here, whiten, it's like you want something to get white. And you can do the same in French. So here you've got the adjective white in English, and you add en, and you've got the verb, like to get white. Or the same with harden, to harden, like to get hard. And you can do the same in French. So here it's the translation for white, blanche, without the e, it's an adjective. And the en in French, this ending is ir. So you've got here, like you want to make something white. And when you've got verbs like that, like if you recognize an adjective and then the ir, it's almost 100% sure that it's second group. So remember that if it implies a new state, like you've got a new state, like you want to make something different, like based on an adjective, like you want to make it white or black or hard or something like that, it's probably like 100% sure that it's ir, like second group. So remember that. Like for example, harden, to harden in French, you would say durcir, durcir. And as you can see here, you can see hard in French, which is dur, dur. And then you see IR, there is this C, but it's not what is important. As you can see here, you see the adjective, and here you see the IR, so you know it's a second group. So remember that. But then you've got also classic verbs like finir, like to end, or choisir, to choose, that are second group, and there is no specific rules. But this is a good hint if you don't know for verbs. So, as I said, it's quite similar to the first group. You've got the stem, the ending, which is this time IR, and then the infinitive form, which is the addition of the stem and the ending. So here, you've got fin, ir, finir, finir, to end. And then it's exactly the same here. That's why you can see, like here, it's like for the two groups. If you know the ending associated to the second group, you know how to make the verb. You need to use the stem here, like you need to remember just this one, and then you add the correct form. So here, for the present, the ending are a bit different than for the first group, but if you remember just those 6 endings, you're good with all the second group for the present. So here it's is, it, ils sont, issent, is. So here, you just remember that and you can do it. Like for example, if I want to say choisir, je choisis, like I choose. Here, you take the stem, so here, the stem of here, you get rid of the ending, so it's choise, choix, with the S, and you add this, so you've got choisi. Really easy. Like same for the imparfait, which is this time a bit easier. Like, as you can see here, it's the same ending that for the first group. So you just remember the same endings and you're good. What you can do is, what you have to do is just before this ending add ISS, and you've got the form, like you know how to do it for the imparfait. So here you take fin, like if you want to say nous, like I ended. So here you take the verb to end, finir, you get rid of this, so you've got fin, you add ISS, like double S, so you've got finis, and then you add, so I said I, so you add here AIS. So you've got je finissais, I ended, je finissais. Quite easy. And for the future, it's even more easy. Same ending here, and you've got infinitive, so you take this, stem plus ending, you've got finir, and you've got your ending, you've got all you need to do with the future. So here, if I want to say je, let's choose a verb choisir, like I will choose. So je choisirai, choise here, you take the stem and the ending, so you take all the verb, infinitive, choisir, and you add here, so I choisirai, so you just say je choisirai. Quite easy. And for the participe passé, you just use the E at the end. So you take the stem and you add the E. So here you just, in a certain way, you can say you just get rid of the R for this one. So let's check those examples. Nous finissons, vous choisissiez, and elles ont fini. Try to translate that into English to see which tense is used and which ending. Did you find it? Okay. So here, nous finissons. As you can see here, you've got the stem, and as you can see, ESS. But maybe it's imparfait. But here you can see that you've got also two endings that are with ESS. So you need to be careful with that. So you check here and you see that this and this, it's similar. So it's present. Nous finissons. We finish. Nous finissons. Like finish or end. We end. Nous finissons. Then, the next one, vous choisissiez. So here you can see again the stem and again ISS. But here, if you check here, it's none of those. So it's probably imparfait. ESS. And then you check for this, IEZ, and you see here it's IEZ. So it's like you were choosing, or like you chose, like the past form of choisir, to choose. So here it's like plural, it's the plural you in French. So it's past tense, like imparfait. And then this one, elles ont fini. Elles ont fini. Quite easy, because here you've got the verb avoir, to have. So it's definitely participe passé, which is, this is present. And then you see here, there's nothing difficult, like the stem plus I. So it's really easy for the second group. You remember that for the second group, and if you know the first group, the rules are really similar and quite easy. But the thing is, a lot of verbs with IR at the end are from the third group, and the rules are way different. So far, we've seen that you need to remember the stem, but it's not something that you really need to remember, because the stem is inside of the verb, like the infinitive form. Parle, fin. So this is the case for first and second group. But for the third group, it's like the group of the all exceptions, and you don't have one stem. Usually, you cannot guess the stem only based on the infinitive. So here, venir or tenir, like to hold or to come, it's not, the stem is not like this or this. They are one of the stems of the verb, but it's not the only one. So for this third group, you need to remember all the stems. And it will change depending on the present, imperfect, future, but also if it's plural or singular. This is kind of messy, so this you need to learn by heart. So I'm not going to explain all the usage of all the stems, but I'm going to show you some big groups of verbs with IR and the stems associated to those groups. So first one is venir, like all verbs with ENIR, venir, tenir. Those two verbs are the most common one from this category. So here you've got four stems. The first one is this one, vient, then you've got vent, then you've got vienne, and then you've got viandre. Or viandre. You say it viandre. So here, the usage will depend on many things. So first, let's start with the easiest one. This one, viandre. In French, the mark of the future is the letter or. This letter is really, has a kind of meaning of the future. As you can see here, for the future form, you always have the R, because you take the infinitive. So this R is like future. Same here, finir, infinitive. So you use the R. And this is the case also for verbs. So here, for verbs from this third group. So here, you've got viandre. So you can see that on this stem, there is the R. So since there is no R in venir, except the final R, and you see here it's a new form, but with the R, you can say, okay, this is the stem for the future. And third group verbs are annoying, but one thing that is cool is there is always only one stem for the future, and sometimes it's close to the infinitive. But here, you see that viandre. So this is the future. And those ones, you need to learn. If you remember those three ones, and then you learn, you see some tables of all the different forms of venir or tenir or all those verbs in unir, you can use all the verbs, all the different verbs. So this is future, and then this is the rest. You need to remember. I'm not going to explain it because it would be too long to explain, but what you need to remember is that you've got those three different stems. So next one is verbs with tir, partir, but it's also the same logic for the verb dormir, just dormir, like to sleep. Partir, it's like to leave. So here, you've got only two stems. One is just you get rid of the ending IR, and one you get rid of the T as well. So here and here. It's quite easy, and then you learn by heart. You can use the same logic for everything. So then you need to learn. I'm not going to explain again. You just remember that verbs with tir are not always from the third group, but if they are from the third group, it's always the same logic, only two different stems, so quite easy. Then you've got verbs with vrir and vrir. Vrir, vrir, like to open, ouvrir, to offer, offrir. So here, ouvre or ouvre. Two stems. You need to remember those stems, and then you need to know how to conjugate the verbs, but always two stems. Like one is you get rid of this, and one is you get rid of the or as well. So you remember those stems, and then you check the correct endings, and you know how to do it. And those verbs are always from the third groups. So here, vrir, vrir, it's always from the third group. And then you've got ourir, like courir, to run. Two stems again. One is you just get rid of the IR, and the other one is just you add an OR. And as you can see, there is an additional OR here, which means it's like here, future. This is only for the future. You've got two OR. So you remember the stems, and then you know that it's, if you remember the endings based on the different conjugaison, like it's not those ones, it's different, but if you remember them, you can do it. You can conjugate this verb. But be careful with mourir, which is a bit different. The logic is a bit different. It's not like our. It's like quite similar, except that you've got also one additional stem, which is meurt. Like it's mainly for the present. It's only for the present. So here, be careful with mourir, which is a bit different. But otherwise, all the verbs, if you learn the conjugaison of one verb from this group, it's perfect, you know how to do it. And you've got also two other groups, which are verbs with quérir and verbs with ir, like cueillir, to pick, like when you pick flowers, cueillir. So be careful, those ones are really complicated. So I would advise you to check the conjugaison, and if you know the conjugaison of one verb with this, you know how to conjugate all the verbs with this ending. But be careful, those ones are always from the third group. So we've seen that you've got 6 different categories of verbs. If you see this category, there is a high chance that this verb is from the third group. It's the case for everything except for tir, where some of them are not from the third group, but some of them are from the second group. But remember, if you see this rule, like to get something harder, to get something white, you can guess if it's from the third group or second group. But it's not always the case. So if you remember just one way to conjugate the form for each group, you know how to do it for all the verbs from the groups. And you know how the stems. Don't try really to remember the stems. It's not that important. Just try to remember that there is a similar logic when you use it. And to end this, I would like to talk quickly about aller. Aller has 3 stems, vi, al, and ir. So here you see all the conjugaison of the verbs. Quickly, like je vais, tu vas, il va, nous allons, vous allez, ils vont, present, future. It's like you just use this and you add this, only this, not that, but here. And then you've got here again, ir, ir. You add the future conjugaison and you're good. And then here, like for the first group, participe passé with the accent. So it was really fast for aller, but what you need to remember is we've got 3 groups. All verbs with er are from the first group, except aller, which is kind of different, you need to remember. Verbs with ir are either from the second group or from the third group. If it's from the third group, there's a high chance that the ending is one of those endings. It's 100% sure for this endings. Those endings, it's always third group, except this one, like sometimes it's third group, sometimes it's second group, but if it's third group, it's always the same logic. So you remember those categories and you can try to guess if it's the third group or not, and if it's a third group, you just need to remember the conjugaison of one verb from this group, this subcategory, and you know how to do it for all the other ones. Don't focus too much on the stems.
Salut, je suis Laurine. Hi everyone, I'm Laurine. It's also not necessary for you to be fluent in French when introducing yourself in any situation. You only need to learn the right tips and tricks to make sure people don't forget about you once they get to know you. In this video, you'll learn, first, how to get started when introducing yourself, second, how to learn about each other, then some specific introduction lines, and finally, how to leave an impression and how French Pod 101 can help you. Let's start with how to get started. Do you want to make friends with the people in France and create a long-lasting first impression? Then, you need to know what formal greetings in French are. There is a French etiquette that you need to follow when greeting someone in French. Here's the first useful word. Bonjour, hello, or good day. Bonjour. Bonjour is used from morning to sundown. It's not too formal, nor too relaxed. Another way to start a conversation is by greeting someone with bonsoir, good evening. Bonsoir. Bonsoir, it's the nighttime version of bonjour and can be used professionally and with your friends. You may also greet by saying salut, hi, salut, salut. It's the casual version of bonjour that you can use at any time of the day. There are 2 forms of you in French. Vous, vous, vous for formal encounters or when meeting someone for the first time, and tu, tu, tu for more casual interaction or when meeting friends and acquaintances. Another formal greeting in French is shaking someone's hand or using la bise, the kiss. La bise. What are the differences? Let me explain. La bise, or the typical French custom of kissing on the cheeks, can be used when greeting someone of the opposite sex in a casual way, for example, after using salut and tu. But if you're not sure what to do, go for a handshake instead. Next is useful expressions to learn about each other. Now, let's learn about the classic questions and answers that usually come up when you meet someone. Others will not only get to know you, but you'll be able to get to know them as well. But before we begin, you first need to remember that questions have 2 forms, formal and casual. Answers, on the other hand, mostly have 1 form only. Let's start with the question, what's your name? Giving your name or asking someone's name in French uses the verb s'appeler. 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 The casual form of what's your name is comment tu t'appelles? Comment tu t'appelles? Comment tu t'appelles? Or tu t'appelles comment? Tu t'appelles comment? Tu t'appelles comment? The formal form, on the other hand, is comment vous appelez-vous? Comment vous appelez-vous? Comment vous appelez-vous? Here's an example of an answer. Je m'appelle Bob. My name is Bob. Je m'appelle Bob. Je m'appelle Bob. It literally means I call myself Bob. This is the most common way to state your name, and it works in both formal and casual situations. Now, it's your turn to ask the same question. You can casually say et toi and you, et toi, et toi, or formally say et vous and you, et vous, et vous. When you're being asked back in a casual situation, you can answer moi, c'est Bob. I'm Bob. Moi, c'est Bob. Moi, c'est Bob. Next, I'm going to teach you how to ask and answer back in French with the question, where are you from? The casual form of this question is like this. D'où tu viens? Where are you from? D'où tu viens? Other forms are tu viens d'où? Tu viens d'où? Or tu es d'où? Tu es d'où? Another example is de quel pays tu viens? From what country are you from? De quel pays tu viens? De quel pays tu viens? Or, tu es de quelle nationalité? What is your nationality? Tu es de quelle nationalité? Tu es de quelle nationalité? The formal way, on the other end, is like this. D'où venez-vous? Where are you from? D'où venez-vous? D'où venez-vous? Or, de quel pays venez-vous? From what country are you from? De quel pays venez-vous? De quel pays venez-vous? Another example is quelle est votre nationalité? What is your nationality? Quelle est votre nationalité? Quelle est votre nationalité? If you're from another country, like China, you can answer with the Je viens de Chine. I'm coming from China. Je viens de Chine. Je viens de Chine. Or, je suis chinois if you're male. Je suis chinoise if you're female. It means I am Chinese. Je suis chinois or je suis chinoise. If you feel like giving the city where you're currently living, you can say Je viens de Paris. I'm from Paris. Je viens de Paris. Je viens de Paris. Or, j'habite à Paris. I'm living in Paris. J'habite à Paris. J'habite à Paris. Next up, we're going to learn the casual and formal way of asking the question, what's your profession? And how to answer it in French. Don't worry, in France, it's very common to ask about other people's job in the early conversation. So, feel free to ask this question or answer back if you're being asked. The casual way of asking about someone's profession is like this. Tu fais quoi dans la vie? What are you doing in life? Tu fais quoi dans la vie? Tu fais quoi dans la vie? Or, tu fais quel métier? What is your job? Tu fais quel métier? Tu fais quel métier? In a formal setting, you can ask it like this. Quel travail faites-vous? What is your occupation? Quel travail faites-vous? Quel travail faites-vous? If you're being asked about your profession, you can answer in any of these ways. Je suis étudiante. I'm a student. Je suis étudiante. Je suis étudiante. Or, j'étudie la biologie. I'm studying biology. J'étudie la biologie. J'étudie la biologie. Another one is je travaille dans l'informatique. I'm working in IT. Je travaille dans l'informatique. Je travaille dans l'informatique. You can also answer with je suis dans la finance. I'm working in finance. Je suis dans la finance. Je suis dans la finance. Or, if you're a carpenter, you can say je suis charpentier. I'm a carpenter. Je suis charpentier. Je suis charpentier. By the way, the keywords here are travail or métier, which means occupation or profession. Travail or métier. During casual conversations, you can replace them with some slang expressions. For example, boulot, boulot, boulot. Or taf, taf, taf. Or job, job, job. When meeting someone for the first time, asking about their family isn't really too common. But just in case someone asks you, you might as well learn how to ask or answer it in French. Here are some examples in casual French. Tu es marié? Are you married? Tu es marié? Tu es marié? Tu as des enfants? Do you have kids? Tu as des enfants? Tu as des enfants? Tu as des frères et sœurs? Do you have brothers and sisters? Tu as des frères et sœurs? Tu as des frères et sœurs? In a formal setting, you can ask it this way. Vous êtes marié? Are you married? Vous êtes marié? Vous êtes marié? Vous avez des enfants? Do you have kids? Vous avez des enfants? Vous avez des enfants? Vous avez des frères et sœurs? Do you have brothers and sisters? Vous avez des frères et sœurs? Vous avez des frères et sœurs? Then, you may find yourself answering in any of these ways. Oui, je suis marié. Yes, I'm married. Oui, je suis marié. Oui, je suis marié. Non, je suis célibataire. No, I'm single. Non, je suis célibataire. Non, je suis célibataire. Non, je suis divorcé. No, I'm divorced. Non, je suis divorcé. Non, je suis divorcé. J'ai 2 enfants. I have 2 kids. J'ai 2 enfants. J'ai 2 enfants. J'ai un petit frère et une grande sœur. I have a little brother and a big sister. J'ai un petit frère et une grande sœur. J'ai un petit frère et une grande sœur. French people are a bit more sensitive about asking someone else's age, especially for women. But if you meet a young girl or a woman who's comfortable about answering just about any questions, then you may ask about her age. The casual way of asking someone's age is Tu as quel âge? How old are you? Tu as quel âge? Tu as quel âge? Asking in a formal manner is Quel âge avez-vous? Quel âge avez-vous? Quel âge avez-vous? Then, you can answer it with J'ai 30 ans. I'm 30 years old. J'ai 30 ans. J'ai 30 ans. Next question you may ask or might be asked of you is a question about your hobbies. The casual way of asking is C'est quoi tes hobbies? Or passe-temps? What are your hobbies? C'est quoi tes hobbies? Passe-temps? C'est quoi tes hobbies? Passe-temps? Or you can also ask Tu fais quoi de ton temps libre? What do you do with your free time? Tu fais quoi de ton temps libre? Tu fais quoi de ton temps libre? The formal way, on the other hand, is Quels sont vos hobbies? What are your hobbies? Quels sont vos hobbies? Quels sont vos hobbies? Or, que faites-vous de votre temps libre? What do you do with your free time? Que faites-vous de votre temps libre? The formal way, on the other end, is Quels sont vos hobbies? What are your hobbies? Quels sont vos hobbies? Quels sont vos hobbies? Or, que faites-vous de votre temps libre? What do you do with your free time? Que faites-vous de votre temps libre? Que faites-vous de votre temps libre? Here are some examples of answering this question in French. Je joue au tennis. I'm playing tennis. Je joue au tennis. Je joue au tennis. Je joue du piano. I'm playing piano. Je joue du piano. Je joue du piano. Je passe mes nuits sur HBO. I spend my nights on HBO. Je passe mes nuits sur HBO. Je passe mes nuits sur HBO. J'écris un journal de voyage. I'm writing a travel diary. J'écris un journal de voyage. J'écris un journal de voyage. Next, let's see some specific introduction lines. Now that you know the most common questions and answers in French, let's now start learning how to introduce yourself with useful French phrases in certain situations. When traveling, you may find yourself conversing with friendly locals. The conversation could go this way. Tu voyages depuis longtemps? You're being asked, have you been traveling for a long time? Tu voyages depuis longtemps? Tu voyages depuis longtemps? Then, you can answer with Je voyage depuis 2 mois. I have been traveling for 2 months. Je voyage depuis 2 mois. Je voyage depuis 2 mois. If you are asked, Tu as visité quel autre pays? What other countries did you visit? Tu as visité quel autre pays? Tu as visité quel autre pays? You can answer with Je suis allé en Espagne et en Italie. I have been to Spain and Italy. Je suis allé en Espagne et en Italie. Je suis allé en Espagne et en Italie. But what about when you're meeting with your coworkers? You may be asked, Tu travailles dans quel service? Which means, in which division are you working? Tu travailles dans quel service? Tu travailles dans quel service? Then, you can answer with Je travaille aux ressources humaines. I'm working with HR. Je travaille aux ressources humaines. Je travaille aux ressources humaines. Another question could be Tu bosses sur quoi en ce moment? What are you working on right now? Tu bosses sur quoi en ce moment? Tu bosses sur quoi en ce moment? You may answer it with Je viens de commencer un nouveau projet. I have just started working on a new project. Je viens de commencer un nouveau projet. Je viens de commencer un nouveau projet. When you're in a casual social event, someone might ask you, Tu fais quoi demain soir? What are you doing tomorrow night? Tu fais quoi demain soir? Tu fais quoi demain soir? You may answer with Je vais au cinéma avec un pote. I'm going to a movie with a pal. Je vais au cinéma avec un pote. Je vais au cinéma avec un pote. Another question you may come across is Tu as un copain? Or Tu as une copine? Do you have a boyfriend, girlfriend? Tu as un copain? Tu as une copine? Tu as un copain? Or Tu as une copine? You may answer with Non, on a rompu il y a 2 semaines. No, we broke up 2 weeks ago. Non, on a rompu il y a 2 semaines. Non, on a rompu il y a 2 semaines. Another situation you might get into while in France is participating in a family meeting. So, if a family member asks you, Vous vous êtes rencontrés comment? Meaning, how did you meet? Vous vous êtes rencontrés comment? Vous vous êtes rencontrés comment? You can answer it with J'ai rencontré Julie à l'université. I met Julie at the university. J'ai rencontré Julie à l'université. J'ai rencontré Julie à l'université. Another question that you might be asked of you is Comment tu connais Bastien? How do you know Bastien? Comment tu connais Bastien? Comment tu connais Bastien? You may answer it with On travaille ensemble. We work together. On travaille ensemble. On travaille ensemble. Next is how to leave an impression. We would like to share with you a couple of tips that you can use if you want to leave a great impression when making new friends. The first tip is to never make it all about yourself. When someone asks something about you, there's really no need to tell that person everything about you. It will make you more interesting and appealing if you let that person find out what else you can offer or can do. Talk less about yourself. Ask them questions instead. Learn more about their culture or find what they like to do. Focus on getting to know them more. It will make them feel you are interested in them and they will soon feel comfortable to be around you. Another thing you may want to do if you want to leave a great impression is showing your interest by dropping a word of appreciation once you hear that person's name. This can take different forms. Here are some examples. Enchanté, which means delighted. Enchanté, enchanté. Ravi de vous rencontrer, or heureux, or heureuse de vous rencontrer. Happy to meet you. Ravi de vous rencontrer, or heureux, or heureuse de vous rencontrer. Ravi de vous rencontrer, or heureux, or heureuse de vous rencontrer. C'est un plaisir de vous rencontrer. It's a pleasure to meet you. C'est un plaisir de vous rencontrer. C'est un plaisir de vous rencontrer. You can cut it down to un plaisir de vous rencontrer. Pleased to meet you. Un plaisir de vous rencontrer. Un plaisir de vous rencontrer. Or even un plaisir. A pleasure. Un plaisir. Un plaisir. Other forms to show your interests when you're greeting in French are Je m'appelle Julie. My name is Julie. Je m'appelle Julie. Je m'appelle Julie. You can then say C'est un très joli prénom. It's a really pretty name. C'est un très joli prénom. C'est un très joli prénom. Another example is Je suis photographe. I'm a photographer. Je suis photographe. Je suis photographe. You can respond with Génial! Quel genre de photo? Great! What kind of photos? Génial! Quel genre de photo? Génial! Quel genre de photo? And J'ai 40 ans. I'm 40 years old. J'ai 40 ans. J'ai 40 ans. You may then say Vraiment? Tu fais beaucoup plus jeune. Really? You look so much younger. Vraiment? Tu fais beaucoup plus jeune. Vraiment? Tu fais beaucoup plus jeune. The last tip we want to share with you is for you to start a conversation in French. You're likely to make a good first impression if you at least try to converse in French. It doesn't matter if your French is unpolished. They will appreciate you for trying. Saying bonjour, hello, bonjour, bonjour. Or, je ne parle pas français. I don't speak French. Je ne parle pas français. Je ne parle pas français is better than not being able to speak any French words at all.
Want to speed up your language learning? Get access to all of our best PDF cheat sheets for free. Just click the link in the description and sign up for your free lifetime account right now.
10 common mistakes that French learners make often in French. So, I'm gonna explain 10 different points, and let's get started without further ado. The 3 first points are really easy, like a simple explanation would be enough to make you understand the mistake, and I hope with this you will not make this mistake anymore. So first of all, rendre visite à. This is a translation for the verb in English to visit. There is 2 ways to translate to visit in French. First, when you visit a place, like I visit France, you use the verb visiter. Je visite la France. The verb visiter. Je visite la France. I visit France. So this is kind of easy. Same verb, like it's not a false friend. But when you visit someone's place, this is more complicated. But not really complicated, because you just use this expression, rendre visite à. So instead of using the verb visiter, you use rendre visite à. Rendre visite à. I visit my grandmother. Je rends visite à ma grand-mère. So it's like exactly the same sentence, except that you have to use rendre visite à. So here I conjugate it. So rendre, rend, je rends visite à. So kind of easy. You just need to remember that visit is different when you visit someone's place. Je rends visite à ma grand-mère. So this one is kind of easy. Let's move on to another one, which is kind of confusing, but really easy to solve it. Tu me manques. It means I miss you. So here you can say that I is the subject in English, but in French it's tu, which is like you. But here you have to use me to translate the I. So here there is a kind of inversion. The subject is the object, and the object is a pronoun. So here I miss you, tu me manques. So this is the case for all the situations. So if you want to say we miss them, you have to say il nous manque. Il nous manque. So here, as you can see, the subject is il, like them. It becomes the subject. So be careful not to confuse and to use nous as the subject and il as the pronoun. This is kind of confusing, but if you know the rule, you will be able to do no mistakes with this. So the next one is something that you learn quite early when you learn French, but it's an easy rule to forget. It concerns capital letters. In French, we don't use capital letters with nationality, weekdays, and months. So you just remember this with the nationality, weekdays, and months. So here, for example, when you want to say French people in French people, you have to use les in French. So les Français, it's like French people, but here you don't use any capital letter. In French, a capital letter, you use the noun for capital letter is majuscule. Majuscule. So here, no majuscule, no capital letter. Then for weekdays, it's the same, like Monday, lundi, le lundi. You don't put any capital letter, no majuscule, just a simple letter. Same for months. Here, like May, le mois de Mai, the month of May. Here, as you can see, no capital letter. So this is kind of easy, not a big mistake if you do it, but just remember that it would make you sound, or maybe when you write, you will look more native. Because this is not like something that you say, but something that you write. Okay, let's move on to the next one, the fourth one. So here, it concerns contractions. Although I think it's something that you learn quite early in French, this is something that is often forgotten by French learners. So I'm gonna explain this once again. First, this one, de le. In French, we don't say de le. We do a kind of contractions, which is kind of weird. So here, you take the D and yet you add a U. So du. So de le, you never say de le, you say du. So this is for the masculine form, but you know the feminine form of de le is de la. So here, if you want to say some jam, jam in French, confiture, confiture, it's a feminine noun. So here, if you want to say I want some jam or I want jam, je veux de la confiture, de la confiture, feminine, so de la, de la. But if the word is masculine, like bread, for example, it's a masculine word, you have to use de le, but no, it's forbidden. You have to do the contractions. This is forbidden. You do the contractions, so you say du pain, du pain. So this one is kind of weird. Why there is a U, we don't know, but you have to remember that. You never say de le, but du, okay? Next one is kind of easy. It's just like when you use le, de, or que, and then there is a vowel. Since it's quite hard to say this I with the vowel that is next to this word, you do a contraction, so you get rid of the I and you add this to shorten your word. So here, like elephant, so in French, elephant, start with a vowel, a I. So this is a noun, and this is a masculine noun, so le, but here you get rid of the I, because there is this vowel. Same with de, here, il vient d'arrêter, like venir de, vient de, it's like a common expression in French to say, oh, I just stopped, I just stopped. So here, il vient d'arrêter, it means I just stopped. So here, there is de, il vient de, and then you add a verb. The expression is like that. You always add a verb after de, but here, since the verb starts with a vowel, a, you have to do the contractions. So here, il vient d'arrêter. If you want to use like a verb that is not starting with a vowel, il vient de commencer, he just started. Il vient de commencer, you hear de, but here, il vient d'arrêter. There is the contraction because there is a vowel. And this one is often forgotten. I think this is the most problematic one because here it's not often that you do the contractions because it's not common that there is Q and then a vowel. But this is still occurring when you do like sentences that start with il dit que, like he said that or stuff like that. Here, if the subject is il or elle, you have to do the contractions. So he said that he's here. Il dit qu'il est là. You don't say il dit que il est là. You have to say il dit qu'il est là. He said that he is here. Il dit qu'il est là. Same with elle. Il dit qu'elle est là. He's saying that she's here. Here in French, you have to do the contractions. So don't forget this. This is kind of important. So let's sum it up. Contractions. Le, de, que. You get rid of the E when there is a vowel. Like it's always with the E. Always with the E. So it's quite easy with the vowel. And you just get rid of the E and you add this instead. Remember, this one, que, is really important. Don't forget it. And also, this one, de le, you don't say it, never. You always say du. So here, you know all the rules. Maybe you knew it before, but it's a kind of like, I'm just refreshing your mind. So yeah, remember this. Next one is kind of tricky. Ma, you know ma, it's like a translation for my. My, you can translate it into two different words in French. Ma and mon. Here, like it's a feminine form, and here it's the masculine form. You know, nouns in French have genders. And depending on the gender of the thing, you have to translate my in one of these two cases. But there is one case where you don't do the common rule. You don't check the gender of the noun. It's when there is a vowel and when the word is feminine. So when it's feminine and when it starts with a vowel, so you can say that whenever a word starts, a noun starts with a vowel, you have to use mon. This is kind of confusing, because when you say mon ami, like my friend, in French you can say my friend, like my friend if she's a boy, or if he is a boy, or she is a girl, if she is a girl. So here it's a boy, so mon ami. But if she is a girl, you add the E here. And you could think, okay, I have to use ma. But that's not the case, because as I said, here there is a vowel. So you have to say mon ami. And don't forget to do the liaison. Mon ami, because there is this vowel. And here also you do the liaison, of course. So here, mon ami. So you cannot make the distinction like when you just speak. This is the same pronunciation, either if it's a boy or a girl. But when you write it, there is this E that helps you to make the disambiguation. But here, it's the same word. So let's get further with another example. When you say une affiche, like a poster, this means poster. And this is a feminine noun. Affiche, feminine. So you say une affiche. But if you want to say my poster, or your poster, or his poster, because in French, this rule is not only for ma, but it's also for ta and sa. So my, you, and his or her. So here, if you want to say one of these with affiche, you have to say mon, ton, son. Mon affiche, son affiche, ton affiche. So here, even though affiche is a feminine word, you have to use the masculine word here, mon, ton, son. So this is just because there is a vowel. So just remember that. Ma or ta, or even sa. When there is a vowel after, you don't think of the gender, you just use mon or ton or son. So this is kind of easy. Vowel, always the same. And you do the liaison, always do the liaison. But it's not only for nouns, it's also working with adjectives. So here is an interesting example. Sa découverte, découverte, like it means discovery. Sa découverte, it means like his or her discovery. Here, découverte, it's a feminine word in French. Discovery is feminine. No reason for that. So here, sa découverte, you use sa. Why? Easy, because there is like a consonant, and this is a feminine word, so no reason to use something else. Ça. But if you want to add an adjective, like incredible, incroyable, incroyable, you want to add this adjective here between ça and découverte. But now, if you do this, you've got a vowel, so you have to do again son. You have to use son instead of ça, even though découverte is feminine. Son incroyable découverte. So again, it's not only with noun, it's also with adjectives. It's like for any kind of thing that you can have. So if you have ma, ta, or ça, and a vowel, even though if it's a noun or an adjective, you just turn it into a mon, son, or ton, and you don't forget to do the liaison. So this is kind of confusing, especially since in English you have the distinction between his and her, but in French we don't do this because we don't care of the owner of the object. We just care about the object, the gender of the object. So here, don't forget to think of the gender of the object and just check if there is a vowel. So the gender of the object and if there is a vowel. Next one, pronominal verbs and possessive pronouns. This one, I hear this a lot, even though the French learners are really good at French. This mistake is quite a big one. It's not that problematic, but if you hear it, it sounds a bit weird. And I think it's something that you don't learn at school. So when you want to use a verb, like I'm washing my hands. I'm washing my hands. When you do actions with your body in French, usually you have you use a verb that is a pronominal verb. Je me lave les mains. So here, je me lave, I wash my hand. I'm washing my hands. Here, in English, you say I wash my hands. My, because it's my hands. But here in French, since you have me already, you have to use les and not my. Like if you say je me lave mes mains, it sounds weird because there is me and me, so you're saying twice, like you're referring twice at yourself, and just once is enough. Je me lave les mains. So usually I hear a lot of French learners saying je me lave mes mains, but you say je me lave les mains. It's the same for any other pronominal verbs. If you say il s'est cassé, like he broke his leg, or she broke her leg. Il s'est cassé les jambes, or la jambe here. So here, same here, if you want to say he broke his leg or she broke her leg, you have to say il s'est cassé la jambe. You don't say il s'est cassé sa jambe. You have to say il s'est cassé la jambe. Because here there is already this that is referring to his leg. So here, il s'est cassé la jambe. So be careful with that. There are many verbs, and usually it's verbs that are referring to your body. Like when you brush your teeth. In French, it's se brosser les dents. So this is the infinitive form. So if you want to use like with je me brosse les dents, je me brosse les dents, I'm I'm brushing my teeth. I'm brushing my teeth. So here, again, les. Same with like se coiffer les cheveux. Je me coiffe les cheveux. Je me coiffe les cheveux. Here I'm not saying mes cheveux, I'm saying les cheveux. I'm brushing my hair. So here, se coiffer les cheveux. Se coiffer les cheveux. So be careful with that. It's usually verbs with the body, but it's always the case with pronominal verbs. So be careful. Let's now move on to the next one. This one is also something really common and kind of weird in French. It's like when you want to introduce someone, you don't use il est, but you introduce the person with c'est. Because usually you translate he with il, she with elle, or it with ça, or si with this contraction. But if you want to introduce someone, like my friend, because in English you can say he is my friend or it is my friend. But in French, there is only one way to translate the two sentences. He is my friend or it is my friend, just one way to translate it. C'est. You have to say c'est mon ami. You cannot translate he is my friend with il here. And when you introduce someone, you always have to use c'est. Like it's the same if you want to introduce, I don't know, your French teacher, like he is my French teacher or it is my French teacher. In French, just one way to translate it, c'est le professeur de français, or c'est mon professeur de français. C'est le professeur de français means he is the French teacher or it is the French teacher, but in French, only one way to translate it. C'est, to introduce someone, c'est. Always c'est. Just remember that. Let's move on to the next one with this letter that is a word in French. Why? To replace a place. Because you can replace a noun sometimes by using it in English. Like, I'm using a tool, I'm using it. It's the same in French, but you can also do that with for places. So if you want to say je suis en France, but you know that you don't want to repeat the word en France because it's the location. In English, you can also do you can avoid the repetition by using I am there. But in French, you have to use this word, why. So here you say j'y suis. And please note that here, when you see je suis en France, like the place is after the verb, but when you do like the substitution, the y is before the verb, j'y suis. And since y is a vowel, you have to translate, you have to do the contraction, like here, je becomes j, je becomes j, because there is a vowel, so j'y suis. I think this is kind of confusing when you hear this, because you're wondering why did it say j? It means like he is referring to a place. So same here is another example, like she is walking her dog in a park or something like that. Elle promène son chien au parc. Elle promène son chien au parc. So here you have to say, if you want not to repeat au parc, which is the location, like park, it is like same in French, parc. Elle y promène son chien. So here again, this is after the verb, like it's at the end of the sentence. But here, when you do you avoid the repetition, you have to use y before the verb. Elle promène son chien au parc. Elle y promène son chien. So here, be careful, before the verb. So this is how you replace a place in French. But you can also replace a thing. And sometimes in French, it's not enough to use just ça, because in English, like as I said, you can like you can say I'm using a tool, I'm using it. J'utilise un outil, je l'utilise. In French, here it's like kind of similar. Instead of saying l'outil, which is the tool, I'm saying je l'utilise. But this is not the case when you want to replace a thing that is introduced with this a, o, or de, or de. Here, if it's a, o, you have to use instead of le, or la, or le, if it's plural, you have to use again y. So y is like to replace a place, or to replace a thing introduced by a, o. So if you want to say je pense à mon avenir, like I'm thinking about my future. If you want to replace à mon avenir, like you don't want to repeat it, you have to say j'y pense. Again, here after the verb, here before the verb. It's always like that in French. It's the same when you say like I'm using a tool, I'm using it. J'utilise un outil, je l'utilise. So here again, you always do, when you replace a noun, you always do the inversion, you put it before the verb. So here there is a, so you don't use le, because mon avenir, it's like a masculine word. But here, since there is a, you don't care if it's masculine or feminine, because you don't have to use le, you have to use y, so j'y pense. And this is different when there is de, or de, you have to use en. So if you want to say je veux du pain, you don't say, like, when you say je veux du pain, it means I want bread or I want some bread. Je veux du pain, je veux du pain, j'en veux, j'en veux. Here again, before the verb, you use this, and since there is a vowel, you do the contraction. Only with je. Like if it's tu, you don't do it. Tu en veux. Tu veux du pain, tu en veux. So here, you don't say je veux du pain, je le veux. You don't say this. Because here there is de or du, like I forgot, but here it's not only with de or de, it's also with du. Je veux du pain, j'en veux. You don't say je le veux, you say j'en veux, because it's du pain. And here you have to be careful because it's only concerning things. So if you want to use like the same verb, je pense à mon avenir, but you're thinking about someone. Here you want to say je pense à Pierre. But Pierre, it's a noun, it's a name, it's my name. Je pense à Pierre. Je pense à lui. Here, since Pierre is like a name, a person, you cannot replace it with with y. You have just to replace it like with the corresponding word. So here, since Pierre is a boy, you have to say lui. And je parle de Marie. So here again, like it's an example with de. Je parle de Marie. You don't use en, since Marie is a name, a person. So you say je parle d'elle. So here you do the contraction because elle is feminine. So be careful because it's not concerning people, it's only with things. So let's just wrap it up for this. Why? You can use it to replace a place or a thing, but only a thing introduced by a, o. And when you do the replacement, you put it before the verb. With en, it used to replace a thing again, but only when it's introduced by de, or du. And when you want to replace something that is not introduced by a or de, like one of these or one of these, you just use le, la, or les, which is the classic one. But be careful with persons, you don't use those rules. Now let's move on to the last one. The last one is like a kind of tricky one, and I think like not a lot of people are aware of that. And again, it's like for the capital letters, it's not something that you say, but it's something that you write, especially when you write emails. In French, there is two symbols here, like the exclamation mark and the question marks. The question mark. Here in English, when you put a word here, you don't put any space between the word and the mark. Like hi or what. But in French, when you write it, you have to use a space. You have to put a space here. Hey, if you say, huh? Like what? What? Huh? In French, there is a space here. So just be careful with that. If you write an email or if you write French, especially when you're using a computer, because it's not something that you can write like here I put a big space, but like it's not something that you can distinguish easily. So be careful with that. It's like a kind of bonus, because usually it's not really bad if you do this mistake, but it's good to know it. Like you will maybe understand if some French people send you emails and they're putting spaces everywhere after their marks. It's because in French you do that. Okay, so now we've seen 10 common mistakes. Here are some easy ones, like 2 common expressions. This rule about capital letters, nationality, weekdays, and months. Then some like classic contractions, really important, but often forgotten. Here, this tricky rule with ma, ta, sa plus a vowel that turns into like mon, ton, son. Then pronominal verbs and possessive pronouns when you using like pronominal verbs, so se laver, like especially when you're dealing with your body, you have to avoid referring to twice at your own body, and your own like at yourself, or at like twice at your like the person you're talking to. You don't refer it twice. Here, just the pronoun verbs is taking the form of the subject. Then this is like c'est when you introduce someone. When you introduce someone, don't use il est or elle est, even though if it's a girl or a boy, you just use c'est, always. Like, he is my friend, always c'est mon ami. You don't think any of anything else. This is only what you have to remember. And then there is to replace a place or replace a thing, I or en, depending on the situation. So be careful with that. And then this little trick with the space when you use marks. So I know that there are a lot of common mistakes. Usually you also have the liaison or like the false friends, but since I did some videos on that before, I'm not mentioning that again.
Great work! Here's a reward. Speed up your language learning with our PDF lessons. Get all of our best PDF cheat sheets and ebooks for free. Just click the link in the description.